venture. This is a Crypto Legends podcast.
Mark Zuckerberg's bet on the metaverse has been well publicized. So too has the proceedings, results falling far short of estimates. But with the metaverse play being long-term and the overall macroeconomic factors affecting all industries, there is an opportunity for reflection and insight. Enter Tracy Cheng, my friend who's a founder of TradeLight that recently launched Mogaland. They are play to learn and learn to earn offerings, specifically from the perspective of financial literacy. And what's perfect timing? Play to learn and Mogaland's metaverse learn to earn financial literacy services are more relevant now than ever. Tracy has 9+ years in banking and fintech, dedicating the last 2 years to TradeLight and Mogaland. Her experience in the trade-field world and her unique ambition to develop a product in the metaverse space make her a true legend. Tracy, it's a privilege to have you with us today. Today, we are very lucky to have my friend Tracy Cheng, who's the founder and CEO of TradeLight and who recently launched Mogaland, which is a very exciting universe to play games and learn about personal finances. Tracy, can we just touch base a little bit on what drove you there and a bit about your career path to it, specifically the waves you made around fintech when we were together at Fedor?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks, Sophie, very much for having me on this podcast. And yeah, we met at Fedor. And as you can remember, probably back in those days, right, when fintech or banking as a service or any of these terms weren't really a mature market just yet, right? People are still playing around, understanding what it is. So, even back then, right, you and I, we did a lot of evangelizing and education in this space, right? Both to our B2B customers as well as to our B2C, so our end users, right? So people in the market who is using product and services from fintech. And, back at Fedor, we had the concept of a digital community where not only can the banking service provider provide knowledge and use case examples or experiences to our end users, users can also talk amongst themselves to learn from each other's experience, right? Which is, I think, so important in this digital world because, if we're taking away the physical experience of going to a branch and sitting there with other people and chatting away, we need to give them a space to share knowledge, right? Because people learn best actually from not just their own experience, but from the experience of their peers. So all of this actually inspired the creation of TradeLight 2 years ago, because we want to actually focus even more on this engagement aspect, right? How to use technology and use digital channels to create the possibility to keep up or even increase the customer engagement, the knowledge engagement in the financial space.
Yeah, and I think it's really on point. What strikes me is that, when we grow up, we learn by playing. And then in life, after that, we just lose this capability, or we don't train it anymore, right? Like we learn by reading, etc. And I find it very compelling in the end, like to learn by playing again, and as you say, using the peers' knowledge to grow. And personal finance is most definitely a top topic, specifically in those days. So you just mentioned that in 2020 you founded TradeLight and you launched Mogaland. The first is play to learn, and the second is learn to earn. So let's start with play to learn. Financial education is always valuable, and you have the perfect background, but the games angle make it all the more interesting. What has been your connection to games? Is there anything else besides the Fedor experience where we started with the community?
Yeah, so very similar to what you just shared, right? So growing up, I always remember playing games in school with my family, with friends, right? Games like Monopoly, card games. Later on in high school, I played a lot of Catan Settlers. And even in classroom settings, these games were often introduced to actually help the students, for example, learn math in an easier, funner, and more competitive manner, right? So if you think about a lot of the card games we do, it's a lot about mathematics or even statistics. And then some of the games later on, right, as an adult, I realized it really also helped me train strategic thinking, right? And I'm always very fascinated also about the creative aspects of the games, right? You have characters, you have stories, you have this whole world that really draws people in, right? And that is really immersive, and you create an emotional connection as well. So all of these are different, let's say, motivation, right, for the player to progress and get better and level up. So all these things really fascinated me. And actually, I'm just gonna like share a bit more about, what was really the inspiration behind the play to learn, right? So we have this background of, playing games, as you said, growing up, learning. And what really inspired me loads and also shocked us at Traylight is the game Animal Crossing. So I came across an article in the Financial Times that reported about virtual rate cuts forces Nintendo gamers into riskier assets. Right. And as a banker in background, this news really shocked me, right? So first of all, I'm like, why is this real world newspaper reporting about the monetary policy impact inside a game world? Right. And at the beginning, I couldn't, I was really blown away. But after I started to read more into it, and after I started to understand this game and the impact it has, I realized that, although it's a game world, the effort, the skills, and even the time and the emotions that people invest into this world, it's real, right? And because of the aspects and requirements and changes in this world, people are actually adjusting their behaviors and training themselves, right, to excel in this world. And therefore, any changes there create such a real emotional and even monetary impact to them, right? So this is, I would say, a true inspiration for the play to learn concept we have.
Yes, that's really interesting. And I mean, like we have seen Animal Crossing becoming a phenomenon. It's like the same with Sims back in the days. And like those games definitely have some learnings, like specifically for the kids. It's not just like a play for the sake of like ultimate fighting type of thing. There is like real lessons there, and it's quite interesting to see how basically you're thinking of like making it even more compelling to actually learn vital skills, because it's what I would say personal finance management is about. I would like to touch a little bit upon TradeLight a bit more, and specifically your offering to companies, and then we're gonna jump into Mogaland. Can you tell us a bit like what's the angle there, and like what companies can do with your solution?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Traylight is basically the technology company and the developer behind the game that we're going to talk about later, which is Mogaland. Traylight started with the vision that we're going to actually bring real world financial content into video games, right? So, how do we do that from a tech perspective? Is we actually integrate with real world financial knowledge databases, right? So we have a learning content management system that we work through, and we package the data in a way that it's usable in gameplays. And then the second integration we do is actually with real world financial markets. So with stock exchanges, with bond exchanges, crypto exchanges, we consume data, right? Real life data even from these environments, and we put them into game mechanics, right? Not simply to simulate a trading experience, but actually turn them into playable components that you are learning about how these things work, or you're learning about the decision making, but in a gaming environment. So just now imagine like, let's say a very wild example, right? If you're like playing Candy Crush, but somehow you're learning about financial assets and how they work, If you do it repetitively, casually, 3 minutes there, 2 minutes there, while you're waiting for the tube to come, over time, right, you would bring your familiarity and your skills up to a level. And when you walk out of the game into your trading app, you would see the same stuff, right? And then hopefully you would have a higher level of confidence to know what you're doing. So this is what we do, and we create the backend platform to enable this kind of experience. We provide this platform to financial service providers, financial educators, or even game developers to use, so they can create the art, the animation, the story on top, but use these mechanics. So that's one aspect. And another is we also create the possibility to have partnerships, right, where people in a similar space who, for example, are the data creators or the knowledge creators can connect to our database, and we can then provide an end user experience jointly.
That's really interesting. Just remind me, like when there was this craze around Sudoku, and you could see how like basically you started was difficult, and like how like the muscle gets stretched and used to it, and then you master it. And I can see totally like when you get into the habits of looking financial markets, but also understanding what's behind the ETF and what's behind bonds and all this type of thing, like can really help you like make wiser investments, even like when you, for example, like play safe and put money like with an investment fund and let people manage it. At least ask yourself the questions, but what is it made of? What are they investing in? And like just really like raising these bars that like is not so easy, because we don't really get the education unless we actually force ourselves to educate. So I would love to then jump into Mogaland, which is a well, play to earn model. I mean, like the transition between Tradelight and Mogaland seems very natural, I would say. I would love for you to discuss about that, but also how actually play to earn is why play to earn is the right model to incentivize people to play.
Yeah. So first, a few words about Mogaland. So as mentioned, Tradelight is the tech platform right behind the games, and we've reached a stage where we have a lot of our own ideas about a game world and the user experience we want to deliver. So actually, we now have a big, let's say, game design, game development team. In addition to the people with the fintech background, right, which is a really, really interesting mix. So Mogaland is actually a play to learn and then learn to earn game world. And the design comes jointly from expert and experienced game designers, artists, as well as learning designer, right? So it's not actually experience driven by banking or financial people. It's actually driven by people who are very good with user experience and engagement. So in Mogaland, actually, what we want to achieve is a user journey about for learning finance that is like never seen before, right? So traditionally, when you go to a classroom, right, or you consume some information online and you learn about financial concepts, maybe you would try a trading simulation here and there. But at the end of the day, there's no feedback being given to you, right? No one is telling you you're missing this. This is the how to. So it's all very much based on self-service. And in order to practice, at the end, you're taking your real money, right, directly into the market, and you learn from mistakes and sometimes from successes, right? But the risk is very high, right? The material risk is that you could and oftentimes lose all your savings, right? Which is what we see very frequently these days with especially the younger generation that's entering into the financial market. So what we want to achieve with Mogaland is to change this user journey and make the learning itself, as well as the financial skills you achieve itself, directly earnable, right? So you don't earn and then bet your money in the market. You directly learn and then see if you can get something out of that learning experience, right? So we use this concept, which is, I would say, almost becoming a buzzword these days, play to earn. However, what we do is, first of all, we make sure that Mogaland itself has a very sustainable business model behind, so that actually all the earning mechanisms that is linked to the players' activities are based on tokens, right? So tokens that are, let's say, well managed in the sense of, truly being decentralized, having monetary policies and economics policies that is making sure that it's not just a hype or a speculation, but that it's really linked to the player community growth. It's really linked to your learning effort as well as your skill growth. Right. So, in short, in Mogaland, the experience that one can find is that you play games, you have fun, and these activities should help you learn some financial knowledge. And then your learning effort, as well as the skill-based achievements, will then actually earn you rewards that have real world monetary values.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it makes me think of like kind of like the what's going on in crypto in general, and I would like to actually touch a bit upon it. So like crypto, there is like a lot of speculations, right? It goes up and it goes down, and right now like there you have like the category of people that are the hodlers that keep their crypto because like their thinking is that, like, for example, Bitcoin value is actually like not at its current stage, but it's going to massively increase in the future. And you have the people that like kind of do day trading, looking at like what's going on the market and like what's going on with like the crypto whales, to actually make small profit, but like multiple times a day. I would love to understand what's the vision. I totally understand, like you're also like at the beginning of the journey, but what's the education around, or is there any education around day trading versus like looking at the fundamentals of like a company, a country? Like, how does it look?
So actually, you touched upon a really good point, because day trading is something that we're trying to actually bring light upon, to explain to people that most of us, especially when we are using our trading apps and getting notifications and getting gamifications to be, let's say, motivated to play around in your trading app every day, you unfortunately fall into a pattern of day trading, right? And that is actually a strategy that someone needs to be aware of what they're doing, and that you then need to understand the risks, right? Understand the methods and the work you have to do in order to be good at it. And the reality is, when we see about, I think, 70% plus or minus retail investors who have this day trading behavior are basically only losing money, right? So we are actually starting our education in the trading and investment space, and really to bring light to what's the difference, right, between trading and investment. What does investment mean for you as a person in terms of your personal finance, right? Really thinking about your income, your outgoing, your goals, and then looking at, okay, what are the right investment behaviors, and therefore what kind of trade should you make based on those investment strategies, right? So that's definitely an area that we're focusing very much on. And also we want to bring in information, more and more information around crypto, because as you mentioned, right, if you invest in company stocks, you would typically look at the fundamentals and understand the company, but people don't seem to do that as much when they are in crypto space. So there is still a lot of homework that needs to be done, right? And it's not easy. So we're trying to make it in a more playful way, that you're consuming bite-sized information as you play games. But our idea is to really show people there are different ways of growing your wealth, instead of just following the social media trends, right? So we're actually, for as an example, we are doing a World Cup of ETFs, right? And I think a lot of young people would think ETF, that sounds like a really technical and very boring thing, right? So we're trying to bring some game with that, right? To say, okay, if you're watching the World Cup, pay attention to these ETFs from these countries, and we're organizing the competition in a way that you feel like you're playing in a sports championship, right? But it's a way for people to actually learn about a different kind of asset that is, I would say, much lower risk and much more friendly to beginners.
And it makes total sense. Like I went into it, and everybody should go on the website on Mogaland and look at the different tournaments. But it's quite engaging, and there is like little competitions going on every day, and like you can really like improve your knowledge by playing. I would like to dig deeper into crypto and what we have been seeing happening over the past few weeks, and specifically the FTX crash that unfortunately has impacted quite widely the market, the crypto market, but probably also beyond. And I think it goes back to also the need, the deep need for society to actually put a spotlight on education. Can you tell us a bit, like, so of course it's like TradeLight and Mogaland all started about the need of people getting financial literacy, but can you touch upon like the need even more now, basically, and maybe what's missing in our society to help people manage their money and plan for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as the old saying goes, knowledge is power. And, power is to us a very fascinating word because, the whole Web3 movement, the crypto movements are all about decentralization, right? It's about distributing power so that it's not centralized to any kind of entity or persons. But what we see now in the FTX crash, or again, as the market development, right? We have these centralized exchanges controlled by executives, right? Controlled then indirectly by their shareholders. Again, we are creating a centralized structure, right? And if one of those controllers or people holding the power is not a decent person, so to speak, then the whole thing falls apart, right? Because they have the power to drag everyone down with them. So it's almost a complete controversy, let's say a very it's almost the opposite of what we want to achieve, basically, right, in the DeFi space. So we think that it's actually a really key thing to do in terms of this, let's say, de-risking and realizing the true decentralized finance and democratizing finance movement is actually to start with democratizing knowledge, right? So at the moment, knowledge is always being held, right, by those who has the financial access or the professional access. They're not being distributed in a way that is easy for common people, right? Banks traditionally, due to regulatory requirements, love to create these really fine print terms and conditions with really technical and tricky wording inside that no one reads, because even if they do, they don't understand, right? So we're really trying to change that and to, I would say, first, decentralize knowledge and make it easily consumable and accessible by as many people as possible, which is, again, why we're using games, because there's just so many people playing games all around the world, right? And it's regardless of country or culture. So that's the first thing. And then, hopefully we see that when you have the knowledge and understanding and confidence of what's going on around you, people wouldn't panic so much, right? So when there's a crash, when something is going wrong, then you have the tool sets in your brains or around you to make decisions that are not, let's say, deviating your financial goals, right? And, actually some famous quotes that we came across recently is that most people actually make the most money in, or I would say experienced investors make the most money in bear markets, right? But the majority of the world don't realize this, and they don't realize how to achieve this, right? They usually panic, and they're reading news on social media, and next thing you know, they've lost everything without really even knowing why. Okay. So this is definitely something we would like to change, is to use knowledge to bring up the understanding of how to deal with situations so that people can have a lower, let's say, risk exposure when such situations happens, and that they can also maybe preempt and identify risky behaviors for themselves ahead of time.
Yeah, which which would be really useful, and but there is lots of work to do, unfortunately. Before we jump into what the future looks like for Traillight and Mogaland, I would love to touch upon the concept of business partnership with Mogaland. So Crypto Legend and Fiat Republic have partnered with you guys to actually create tournament and come in your game. But can you tell us a little bit more about kind of the context and what it looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started Mogaland first with, I would say, a proof of concept web application, right? So this is something we've been talking about. But going forward, Mogaland is going to become a mobile game world. And we're working on that at the moment. You see a little bit of proof of concept on our website. And in this game world, as a player, right, you would have a character and you would walk around and explore different things. There are different destinations where you might run into games or challenges. You might even have enemies that's attacking your world, so you have to defend it. And every activity a player would do in this world would link them to either learning something about financial knowledge or practicing their financial skills, right? So it's one or another. And in this world, we would like to bring in what we call our ecosystem partners, right? So financial education providers, financial service providers, anyone who has a lot of knowledge and the correct product and services for our players, we want to allow them to feature themselves in this world. So just imagine you're a player and you've tried out, let's say, this crypto learning component. You realize, oh, you're super good at this. You keep leveling up. And there you have a provider also in this space. So now you can actually learn more about, okay, how do I actually utilize the product and services that is being given to me in the real world, right? To then bring my financial wealth management or personal finance to the next level, right? So this is the idea we have. And also we want to allow all our ecosystem partners to turn their content into a more interactive engagement, right? So if you have an academy, if you have different ideas about how to engage with your customer to support them with their financial literacy and knowledge improvement, you can bring into this world. And you can use tournaments, as Sophie mentioned, to host a knowledge-based competition and basically reward your customers who come out on top of it, right? Reward their knowledge acquisition behaviors.
So last question for you. Outside of Mogaland, what in the learn to earn or metaverse space are you the most looking forward to?
Outside of Mogaland, I must say, well, first of all, I always most look forward to Mogaland. I'm one of those people that can't wait to walk around in buildings and looking forward to what Fiat Republic and Crypto Legends will create as a building in our game, because I want to walk into your building, Sophie, and see what you're offering in there. But honestly, I would say outside, what we're actually really looking forward to is, let's say, all the development and maybe consolidation, who knows, of metaverses, right? So this is something that is absolutely fascinating to us as well, because we're a content focused creator in Web3, right? So we're not doing the VR, AR, R&D to bring you these headsets and let you walk into a space where you can move things around with your hands. So I'm really curious, how would the content focused creators merge with the spatial service creators, right? And how we can then one day bring Mogaland beyond, right, a mobile game world experience, but it's actually a space that people can even meet with others and have this almost semi-physical interaction, all while maybe playing some financial games and discussing about finance together. So this is something that I'm definitely really looking forward to.
Thank you so much, Tracy. You genuinely are a legend, and it was a pleasure to have you on the show and to catch up after such a long time working together at Fedor. So stay tuned for more legendary tales as we bring you the most inspiring stories for the crypto legends of Web3. Crypto Legends is to be continued.